What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. And today I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by the pride of Erin's own Lavey, Paul Hughes, before his massive fight against AJ McKee at the upcoming pay-per-view series for PFL. Paul, how are things? How are you today?
I'm doing great, bro. I'm doing great. That's my favorite intro ever so far.
Good. I'll take that. I actually wanted to ask you about that, right? Because I've obviously interviewed a lot of Irish MMA fighters down through the years, and there's a lot of lads who've played GAA, whether it's Gaelic football or hurling. I know Ian Garry has played a lot. Caelan Loughran played to a pretty good level. Ian Neil Seary back in the day. For yourself, growing up with that athletic background, playing a lot of GAA, and I watched your documentary, still involved, still going and watching, and I'd say if you could be out there, you probably would be out there. How good of a grounding was that for you as a sportsman?
Look, it's very much, I guess, formed me into the person that I am today, is growing up playing Gaelic and hurling. The GAA is everything. When you come from a parish that I come from, this is just, the whole community is based around the team. It's based around them kind of community values and, competing since a young age, since I was, I guess, 8, 9, 10. Competing, and that's just, I guess, it's made me the person that I am.
Does it toughen you up as well? Because there aren't many tougher sports playing when you're young, as well, especially in Ulster playing Gaelic football. It's probably one of the toughest sports in the world you could be playing.
Well, try hurling as well on top of that. Yeah, you definitely gotta grow up tough here for sure. Playing these sports, if anyone who's listening who doesn't know what they are, they're very contact based. And you surely get stuck in, but that, as I've said a few times before, the best base for MMA is GAA, and it could be true,
I like it. I definitely like it. Come here, before we move on to talk about PFL and talk about the next fight, I just want to reflect on the past for a second, because I haven't spoken to you since the signing, and congratulations on signing with PFL. It was obviously a big move that you're hoping for a long time. But around the time when you moved from Cage Warriors and when you were looking for the move, there seemed to be like a little bit of, a kind of negativity is maybe the wrong word, but kind of a back and forth, and there was talks about money and everything like that. Now that you have had time, and I suppose you're in your PFL career now, and you're moving on, how do you reflect on maybe your time, not just with Cage Warriors, but your whole career before that, and where it's gotten you today? How, is it something you look back on with bits of regret, or is it you look back on now and it's kind of all good, and it was what you needed to do to get to where you are?
Yeah, you touched on it at the end there. It is, everything happened for a reason, and how I look back on it all now is incredibly positive. Even the Cage Warriors tenure, there was times, especially towards the end of my contract, where, it's no secret that for a good year period, I wanted to sign to the UFC after I fought Jordan Vucenic. That is the path that I wanted to do when I was younger. That's not a secret. There was a lot of frustration when it came to certain things around that. And then whenever I decided, you know what, I'm actually going to fight out my contract and play the free agent game, there was also some things that were, behind the scenes, not ideal. And of course, as everybody knows, you're not making any money there. You're struggling to get by. They are, of course, negatives, but how I look back on it is with pure positivity. I still love Cage Warriors. That's where I grew my career. It's the people in Cage Warriors, the staff. They are amazing. They really, really are. Ian Dean, I'm very close with, and is a fantastic person. He really built my career really well. And yeah, it's all positive how I look back on it, to be honest. Life's too short to be looking back and being bitter. Yes, there's maybe a certain someone in Cage Warriors that I didn't see eye to eye with oftentimes, but it all happened the way it was supposed to happen. And now, as I have signed with the PFL and I've got into that, I'm almost 6 months in now, about to fight my second fight on a huge pay-per-view. My life has well and truly changed, professionally and financially. When I fight AJ next week, I'm actually getting a bonus, because obviously it is a big fight. It's a big step up. It's a big card. But, it's completely life-changing. My life has completely changed in the last 6 months. I knew that signing to the PFL was going to be the best decision. I had 6 months to think about it, deeply, like really deeply, every aspect of the whole future. I knew it was the right thing to do, and I have just been proved right times 10. Honestly, I could not be happier.
That decision, though, I understand, and I remember talking about it on a podcast myself and saying Paul should sign for the PFL at the time, right? But it must be so hard to make that decision. You know, when you grow up, and the world has changed now, and I think we acknowledge it. And what you said there was indicative of that. But when you were growing up, you wanted to sign for UFC. You know, you just said it. All young fighters growing up want to sign for the UFC, but then to take the decision to sign away from the UFC. Now, you know, we never know what happens in the future. That must have been such a tough decision just to make that decision not to sign with the UFC at that time.
Do you know what? It actually wasn't at all. It was actually one of the easiest decisions of my life whenever I had the offers on the table. Now, there is a story behind that, because when you're coming up as a fighter on Cage Warriors, as you know, as a lot of people probably don't know, you can only go from Cage Warriors to the UFC. They will only let you out of your contract if it is for the UFC, nothing else. So that's what people who aren't in the know, they don't understand this. So as a young fighter coming up, first of all, as a younger fighter, there was only UFC to look at. As I got further in my career, I didn't I didn't think about PFL because I didn't it wasn't a possibility contractually for me to do that. Then as I started getting towards the end of my Cage Warriors contract, I realized, wait a minute, I'm actually not in a bad position at all here. I only have 2 more fights left on my Cage Warriors deal. A contract that I had signed probably 3, 4 years previous that you wouldn't have think. You just assume, I can only go to the UFC. Thankfully, my management, shout out Tim Simpson, like these guys are the best in their game. We looked at it and we went, we could fight out this deal and be a free agent. What would that look like? How many fighters get to test true free agency in their career? Not many.
Yeah.
And it just so happened, it's kind of funny how it all came about, because I got a text from none other than Graham Boylan saying, my coach got a text from none other than Graham Boylan saying, we've got an offer from the PFL for Paul of X number, but I'm assuming he doesn't want it. And at the time, I was like, that's weird, because I still had another fight left in my deal. Now, I think Graham at the time, I think he thought that maybe my contract was over. I'm not too sure right there. But then that's when everything changed in my life. That's when I realized, wait a minute, I can go another avenue here. I can go and make money. I can go to a promotion that is going to pay me my worth. I'm not just going to start off on a starting salary, even though I bring more to the table than these guys. So from that point where I got that text, it was actually 6 months until I actually fought out the deal of Cage Warriors. So I had that 6 month period because I knew whenever I finished my contract, everyone was going to want me, and they did. But it gave me 6 full months of I guess reflection of, okay, what do you want to do? And then I had to look in deeply into myself and what I wanted. But I also had to look at the industry and think, where am I going to be? Where's going to be best for me? You know, I want to make as much money as I can in my career in the next 5 years, and then I want to get out. I don't want to be fighting past 32. You know, I don't want to do it. So I had to think about what I truly wanted from this game, and did I want to go somewhere that I'm valued, where I can make life-changing money within 12 months, 2 years, potentially become the biggest star of that organization, have huge fights like now I'm on the pay-per-view, I'm in the main card fighting one of the best guys in the world, and huge opportunity, a life-changing opportunity just 6 months after I signed. And the decision was absolutely simple, and it has proven to be the best decision of my life. PFL have been incredible to deal with from the moment I signed, to the promos, to everything that we've done. Now I've gotten closer with the team there. They're all fantastic. The opportunities now that they've given me an opportunity to fight AJ McKee on a Francis Ngannou pay-per-view so early. That's I appreciate that respect, and I am going to deliver for them.
Oh, you said about your life changing. I remember the first time I ever spoke to you, in an interview anyway, was there was a text went around in one of our WhatsApp groups over at Severe MMA and goes, Paul Hughes is looking for an interview. He's looking for someone to interview him. And I was like, I'll interview Paul. But at the time, I remember speaking to you and like, I'm struggling to get interviews here. I'm struggling to get my name on. I'm struggling to get people, to care. And that changed very, very quickly after that. But is that another thing you kind of reflect on that time in your career? And you had the broken hands as well, and where you came from. And I suppose it's the same for a lot of young fighters. But for you, you've always had you've always had a championship mindset. You always had a world class mindset. To go from that point to where you are now, to be on the brink of it, that must be crazy to think of where you've come from.
Yeah, it is. It really, really is. Oftentimes when you're in training camps, it's hard to kind of take a seat back and reflect on everything. After my debut was when the first paycheck hit and I got my first win on the world stage. It was just like, oh my God, you've actually achieved what you set out to as a kid. You're living your dream. You're getting paid for living your dream. And now I have the potential, the earning potential in the next few years to really get myself ahead in life. And look, Sean, like that, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It really, really is. If you can't make money out of this game, it's kind of a sad thing. Like, oftentimes look at what just came out yesterday with the UFC antitrust lawsuit, with the athletes on there talking about the injuries and the brain trauma and everything that they have. You have to know your worth, and you have to try get compensated and do everything you can to do it, because MMA is a very short career, a very, very short career with potential dire consequences. So, yeah.
Was there a bit of shock when you got offered the AJ McKee fight? Because let's say if you had signed for the UFC, best case scenario, you would have been fighting someone as good as AJ McKee for 2 to 3 years. You would have had to work your way up, have maybe 6 or 7 fights, gotten ranked. Your good friend Ian Gary, the way he did it, and he's done it very, very well. But now he's fighting, that level of fighter now after 2 or 3 years. Was there a little bit of shock that, like, okay, one fight and you're straight in there right away against the very, very top?
Honestly, no. And it's because I kind of put it out there. I put it out there in the universe that, look, I believe that I am number one in the world. I was saying that a year ago when I made my lightweight debut in Cage Warriors. People were probably thinking, what the fuck is he on about? Like, what is this kid on about? I think I brought this into reality by a year ago starting to talk like that. I'm the best in the world. I'm the best in the world. Put me in against anybody in the top 5, any organization right now. And then when I done the deal with the PFL, I said, give me the best guys. Give me the best you've got. You still there? Sorry, I got a call coming through there.
That's all right. Yeah, you're still here.
And I said, give me the best guys. And here we are. I beat Bobby King, who was actually a tough test. And here we are. Now I get to prove what I've been saying. Now they've given me the opportunity to go put yourself on the world stage here. Show us how good you are.
I suppose the plan when you signed was to fight in the tournament, obviously, the season, which will be starting next year. Is that kind of still the plan? Like, I wonder, is that the plan for AJ too? Might this be the first of 3 fights over the next 6 or 7 months? Is it? I know obviously you're only thinking of a couple of weeks' time and that massive fight, but you're always someone who's planned long term. Is that still what you're thinking of for next year?
We'll see. Honestly, it's whatever the PFL want to do with me. I think when I knock AJ out next week, I think it leaves me in a very good position to potentially fight for the Bellator belt. I think Bellator have been promoting basically winner of me and AJ gets Usman next. They've actually had posts out there. Now, I'm always down for it. I've already said Usman's name. I've already called him out multiple times. Not that I'm looking past AJ at all, but next year is whatever the PFL want to do. If they want to put me on pay-per-views and give me the hardest fights in the planet, I'll do it. You know what I mean? Show me the money, I'll do it. No problem at all.
What do you think of AJ as a fighter? His overall game. Obviously, this is your first jump up into the world class level. When you've in training and broken down his game, putting it up against yours, what did you think?
Look, AJ's a beast. There's no denying that. There's not really any holes in his game either. Like, he has been one of the best fighters in the world for a long time. I remember 4 or 5 years ago, his name being thrown out there as pound for pound one of the best. And on paper, he's up there. But what AJ hasn't faced now at this point of his career, where he's fought everyone, he's beat everyone, he's been the best guy for a long, long time. He's probably got millies in the bank. He's comfortable. But when has he fought the younger guy? When has he fought the young lion? When's that happened? You know, and not that he's going to take me lightly or anything like that, but I think even from getting a read on him on the stream or the broadcast that I done with PFL, the face-to-face, in a way, he's probably wasn't expecting me to come out and act like I'm acting and speak like I'm speaking. Not like I'm just talking mad shit for no reason. That's not me. I'm just being myself. But the calm confidence that I have, I think that young guy coming up, you're going to see that on Saturday night.
Where do you think you beat him? Because it's interesting with AJ. You know, sometimes you look at a guy like AJ and you don't realize how good he is on the ground. I was looking the other day over on Severe Man, the awards, and he's won 2 Submission of the Year awards. AJ has. He's very good on the ground. Obviously, a lot of submissions. In the Patricio fight, I think he looked very good in the 25-minute fight. But I think a lot of people after that were saying, oh, you know, maybe he just didn't do enough. Maybe he didn't, you know, he was kind of maybe overconfident in himself. Is that something you think, like, you kind of just said it there now, he's never fought someone young like you, maybe he's underestimating you maybe a little bit, or maybe thinking this is just the next fight for me. Is that something you could see happening again? Is that something you can kind of prey on maybe yourself with your game?
Honestly, Sean, there is a reason what I've been saying for 12 months now, that I am one of the best in the world. Next Saturday night, I think I beat him everywhere and I make it look easy. And I think I knock him out within 2 rounds. I actually think I'm better than him everywhere. I genuinely do. That's how good I think I am. And I just cannot wait to show everyone. I just cannot wait to show up, because then everybody sits back and goes, okay, he actually is the fighter that he says he is. He is the person he says he is. I've got proof now. He's been in there with the best guy and he's just knocked him out. And I look forward to that happening.
What is the goal for you over the next while? Because it feels like the goal for you was to sign a big contract either with the UFC or PFL. You've done that. A goal was to get it, you know, maybe into the tournament to get a big fight. You've done that. And obviously, look, the goal is to beat AJ McKee in next weekend. But long term, the big goals, are you looking at pound for pound? Are you looking at taking on all the best? What is it that you want to do?
I want the hardest and most entertaining fights that the PFL can give me, period. And what comes with that is, of course, the financial aspect. I want to just continue fighting the best, because why not? Then I get to prove myself, and then I can't be questioned whether or not I'm pound for pound. Like, people often say, well, how are you gonna prove that you're the best in the world if you're fighting in the PFL and like the top 3 fighters in the world in the UFC? Well, aren't PFL signing all the best prospects in the world? Because last I checked, they actually are, because they're valuing these prospects for what they are, myself included, the likes of Cedric Doumbé, the likes of Dakota Ditcheva. So what's to say in a few years' time that PFL don't have some of the best athletes, if not the best athletes in the world? There's nothing to say that won't happen, because they're actually going to value these athletes and pay them their worth. They're not going to start them off on a 10-10 contract or through the Contender Series. So my plan is fight the absolute best, put on the most entertaining fights that I possibly can for the PFL, become a huge star worldwide, and make a lot of money. You know, I want to be done in absolute maximum 5 years when I'm 32 years old. Maximum. I want to have millions in the bank and be done at that point. And that's my plan.
We're talking time here, Paul. So very last question for me. At the moment, in Ireland, there's no UFC booked, there's no PFL booked, there's no Bellator booked, there's no Cage Warriors booked. Would you like to be the guy that brings it back and headlines a big PFL or Bellator card, maybe even in Ireland in 2025?
We need it in Belfast. Belfast next year is going to happen 100%. Whether I'm fighting for a belt, whether I'm fighting in the season, in the global keyword season, I'm fighting in Belfast next year. I got to make it happen. I'm going to try my best.
Paul, thank you very much for the time. Tune into his fight October 19th. AJ McKee, PFL Super Fights on pay-per-view. Paul, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate you, bro.